Hey there, my fellow YouTubians. I love time travel movies. I really do. They're so much fun. There are so many possibilities for time travel movies. The convolutions of storylines and how events can be redone or looked at from different perspectives multiple times. And they're a real big writing challenge too. I think that, of all the kinds of sci-fi storylines that I'd want to tackle, time travel would be the ultimate challenge. Just to make it work, just to make it right. And I tell you what I mean by that. There's two types of time travel stories. The first is the kind which says you can go back in time and do something, and that will change what happens from then on. The other kind is the one that says you go back in time and do something, but as it turns out, you already did it because that was part of your past, even though you weren't aware of it. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you are a young guy, and you have this sweet friend named Stacy, and you also know Stacy's mom, and as anyone can tell you, Stacy's mom has got it going on. So when you acquire the ability to travel backwards in time, you think to yourself, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back in time to when Stacy's mom was my age and have sex with her. So let's say you do that. Let's say you go back in time, and the point you go back in time is right around the time when Stacy was conceived, okay? And let's say you're successful in having sexual relations with Stacy's mom, and she gets pregnant. Now, one of two things will happen depending on which time travel movie that you're in. One, the child that you conceived with Stacy's mom will replace Stacy. Stacy will never exist because obviously your genetic material is different from the genetic material of Stacy's father, whoever that originally was. So when you go back to your time, Stacy won't be there. There'll be some other person in her place, your child. The second possibility is that you get Stacy's mom pregnant, go back to your own time, and Stacy's still there, which means that you are Stacy's father. And in fact, you always have been Stacy's father, even when you were just a little thing, or perhaps not even born yet. Your future self had come back in time to impregnate Stacy's mom, even though you weren't aware of it. So, two different philosophies of time travel movies. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this is that one of my viewers, MrGilbertrocks13, requested for his prize video that I do a video on The Butterfly Effect, the movie with Ashton Kutcher and Amy Smart. And The Butterfly Effect has it both ways. It has moments in which the timeline is not affected by what the main character does by traveling around, and it has moments where it is dramatically affected by it. Now, I like the movie. It's a fun movie, but I wish that they had picked something more consistent. That's another thing with Deja Vu. Deja Vu with Denzel Washington also sort of fiddles with the rules kind of a little bit. There are a couple movies like Back to the Future, which is definitely about how you can go back and change things, or 12 Monkeys with Bruce Willis, which is about how you go back in time, but you don't really change anything because you originally were back in time in the first place, like on the first go-around, if you will. Now, I always thought time travel was kind of like putting the entire universe on rewind. It's like you have this remote control and you can rewind the whole history of the universe to one point and then change it from there on out. I always figured that time travel would result in changes being made. But who knows? I mean, time travel at this point is physically impossible for people, and probably always will be. It's a construct of science fiction and speculation, which it's pretty out there as far as that goes. It's just something that doesn't seem at all possible at any time, but it's fun to think about. And I like all kinds of travel movies, and I did like The Butterfly Effect. But again, it was sort of inconsistent with the rules, so it isn't one of my favorite time travel movies. The story is Ashton Kutcher is a guy who's got memory lapses dating back to his childhood, and what he discovers is that he can basically read his journal in the present, and his mind will transport him back to that time when he had the blackout. As it turns out, he is dropping back into those points in which he originally blacked out. So those blackouts initially, it would seem, were caused by some sort of traumatic event, and maybe they were. but what they've left is a gap for him to travel back into. He's able to affect events and change things. He will travel back to the same point several times and do something different, and his present will be completely affected by it. At one point he wakes up and he has, you know, no arms and legs because of an accident that happened, and this is the result of his messing with the continuum. I was a little disappointed in the conclusion. I thought it was kind of sad that he felt like everyone would be better off if he never existed in the first place. And it seems to, you know, I mean, judging from how everything plays out. I didn't see the original version. I saw the director's cut. This is the only version I've ever seen. I figured it was the more complete version of the movie. So I'm not sure how that differs from the theatrical version. But it is, you know, it is one of those things whereby they will show you exactly the results of everything, and it seems like everybody is happy. And the extremes that the characters go to from one extreme to the other. On the one hand, you're like perfectly happy, on the other hand, you're like a drug addict and a prostitute, or just like completely despondent. There's hardly any in between. Of course, that makes things more dramatic and interesting, but it's also kind of weird. You know, you've got, on the one hand, you've got this kid who's like a total psychotic and completely screwed up in the head, and in the other version of reality, he's like, you know, a total do-gooder and you know, righteous Christian type. You know, it's very bizarre, but it's fun. Yeah, a lot of the and another thing about the inconsistencies is they happen within a flashback. One of my favorite scenes is he goes back in time to when he was a kid, and he needs to prove to somebody that he's in touch with Jesus, like Jesus speaks to him directly. So he goes back to a point where he's in school, he's in a classroom, and he uses a pair of note, you know, those little spikes that you stick a note on. You write a note and then you stick it on this spike that sticks straight upwards, and he slams his hands down on both of them, which is really funny. So he gets the holes in his hand, the scars, the holes in his hand, and this like resembles the stigmata. The problem is that when he goes back to the present, the guy who he's showing this to acts like they just appeared all of a sudden, which wouldn't happen. If he had actually created those scars when he was a kid, he would have those scars all throughout his childhood and into his adulthood. And so when the guy looked at his hands, he would see no change. It's not like they would appear all of a sudden. And that's what happened with the cigarette burn. The cigarette burn affected, you know, it was on his chest basically when he was a kid, and when he grew up, it was there. It's not like it just appeared there magically. So there's unfortunately a lot of inconsistencies with the movie, but overall, if you sort of ignore that, you just kind of go with it. It's a fun movie. There's a lot of fun stuff to be had there. It was directed by Eric Bress and J. Mackie Gruber, and I'm not really familiar with their work, but I know that there have been at least 2 Butterfly Effect movies since then. I don't know whether they're any good or not, but overall, I'd have to say it's a fun movie. Not my favorite time travel movie, but I'm up for pretty much any time travel movie. Anything that involves that, you know, that premise is lots of fun. So, Mr. GilbertRocks13, that is your prize video. Thanks very much again, and that's it for now. Talk to you again soon.